Welcome to another episode of Reverse Ambition, a podcast about those who take a leap to follow their dreams and passion. I have an amazing guest. She's actually a super nerd. She is a proud island gal born and raised in Trinidad, first generation college grad, double IVR with degrees from Cornell and Columbia University and a PhD in education, former teacher, high school principal, university professor turned educational consultant, and now entrepreneur. Please welcome Dr. Nicole Grimes. What's up, Nicole?
Hey, Kelsey. What's up?
I'm good. How are you? Happy New Year, girl.
Happy New Year to you, too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on here. I'm excited for my listeners to hear your amazing journey. And so we're going to get this started. My first question, I usually say, walk me through your journey or take me through your journey. Start from where you're from, where you went to school, what you majored in, and we could just go from there. Sounds good?
Yeah, sure. Well, as you introduced me, so I was not born in the U.S. I was born in Trinity, and I came to America when I was 14, 15 years old, started high school in the middle of high school here, and ended up becoming an engineering major at Cornell. Had no clue what engineering really was, but, you know, having Caribbean parents, it wasn't doctor or lawyer, but it made the cut. So, you know, pursued engineering. And while I was an engineering major, I got involved in a lot of organizations dedicated to, you know, STEM education, one of them being NSBE, which is the National Society of Black Engineers. And long story short, I just kind of really developed an interest in working with children and just, you know, getting kids hyped, like brown kids hype about, you know, pursuing STEM careers and, you know, wanting to pursue.
First of all, for those who don't know, what's STEM again? What does that mean?
It's just an acronym that stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, while I was an engineering major, you know, was doing all this cool stuff in Ithaca with NSBE, and my world kind of opened up to education. And at the time, New York City was really, really pushing one of their new programs, which is actually still around today. It's called the Teaching Fellows Program. I don't know if you've heard of it. And they were heavily recruiting at Cornell and all these other campuses because they were trying to get, you know, fresh out of college grads to consider becoming teachers, right? Instead of like venturing off into other professions. And I thought about it, and I said, you know what? I think I want to do this, but I don't want to just be thrown into a random classroom without preparation. So after a little bit of, you know, time, you know, working at Cornell Incorporated, doing some engineering stuff, I decided, let me give this education stuff a shot and see what it's like. Mind you, I was like major introvert, trying to get into this extremely extroverted profession, which is another story. But I ended up applying to grad school, got into Columbia, went to Teachers College at Columbia University. And as soon as I was done in 2 years, I started teaching in a private school in Manhattan. And I thought it was going to be like a 1-year stint of the school, and it ended up being 12 years.
Wow.
Which was really unexpected. Yeah.
Did your career thus far, you know, totally went as you envisioned, or this is, you know, nothing like you envisioned?
No, I mean, first of all, I was like 20 something years old. I had no clue what I was doing. But I knew that pursuing education felt like the right thing to do. It really, really did. My parents didn't know what the hell was going on with me. They thought I was crazy, as most West Indian parents would.
Are you serious?
So
Why?
I mean, because, you know, my parents were like, you went to this big Ivy League university and like, you want to pursue teaching? Can we not get a job where you hold a briefcase and wear a suit every day kind of thing?
Oh, right.
You know, I mean, you know, this whole perception of what success looks like and feels like, right? That our parents kind of try to project onto us sometimes. But I did my own thing, and you know, the teaching thing kind of like started to stick and feel really good, and I got in a groove.
Mm-hmm.
And my mentor was in graduate school at the time pursuing his doctorate. His name is Dr. Wesley Pitts. Shout out to
Mm-hmm.
him. He's the chair of middle and high school education over at Lehman College. And he really pushed me to consider returning to grad school to get a doctorate.
Okay.
And this was like in 2005. And
So,
I
wait a second.
literally was,
Before this, how many degrees you already have? I count two so far.
that was two. I still had two at this time. And there he was trying to tell me I need to go back to school. And I was like, are you crazy? I was like, I'm done. I'm so done with school and loans.
Exactly.
But he was really persistent, and he said, just try. He's like, I think you have a really good shot of getting in and being a top candidate. And so I applied. I literally walked the application in to the Graduate Center at CUNY on the day that it was due
Mm-hmm.
after work. And I ended up getting accepted. And I found out later on through the grapevine that I was the number one candidate accepted that year in my cohort.
Wow.
So I had a full ride.
Oh,
Because there was
nice.
no way I was getting any, taking on any more loans at this point. So I was super, super blessed, super blessed. It still blows
Mm-hmm.
my mind that I was named a Chancellor Fellow, and that covered all of my tuition and everything for the full time that I was pursuing my doctorate.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we were teaching all day, and we were doing the doctor thing all night for 4 years.
That's a lot of hours. How many hours was that?
Um, Well, the average doctorate degree takes about 6 years, give or
Oh,
take, with 6 years.
ouch.
And I was like, yeah, nah, that's not happening.
Wow.
We need to be in and out, in and out. So I was going to work. I was the chair of the department, of the science department, and I was at grad school 3 to 4 days every week
Wow.
for 3.5 years,
No
because I was
personal
like, we
life.
are knocking this out.
So how long did it take you?
I finished in 4.5.
Oh, wow. Did that go fast or was it took forever?
Um, it I don't know. I feel like in retrospect, it feels like it went by really quickly, but I guess when you're going through the motions and you're like, there were some days I was going to work with 2 hours sleep because I was up writing,
2 hours
and
sleep.
then I would
Wow.
just literally, yeah, or sometimes I would literally write, shower, and just go to work and teach all day. So
Wow.
there were times it was intense, but I was so focused on finishing. Like I really, really wanted to finish, and I knew that I had a real shot at, you know what I'm saying, like completing the degree in a reasonable amount of time, because I was probably the youngest in my program,
Mm-hmm.
because most of the other people that I was in the program with, they were moms and dads, right? They were like 40s and 50-year
And you
olds.
were like 20, what, 27, 28?
I was 28, 20 something, like 29, something around there. Yeah. So I was
Uh-huh.
pretty young.
Wow.
So I was like, I don't have like the responsibilities that, some of my colleagues have. Like they're full families.
Right,
So
right, right.
I was like, you can do this. So I did. I was like, I just stuck my head down, stayed focused, and I was like, I'm done. I
And
just want to be done. So
you were a doctor at 29?
it was probably like 30.
Okay.
Yeah, probably 30. I think around that time. Yeah.
So you finished a
Yeah.
6-year program in 4.5 years. How did you feel after when you were done? Accomplished, I'm sure.
So relieved and never wanted to see a book open again.
Right? Shoot. And this is like
Oh
what
my God.
your third degree?
That was 4. Because when you enroll in a doctoral program, it's typically a joint degree program, meaning you get a master's degree along the way.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so a few years in, I earned a second master's degree, and then at completion with my defense and everything, then I got the fourth degree. So yeah,
Right. What happened to your
yeah.
personal life during that time? Anything? Non-existent?
No, I was still in soca parties. Don't.
Were you?
I was.
How the
I
hell were
was.
you? Because first of all, these soca parties are lit. So how the hell you
Yeah.
were go to school at date, go to work in a day and do a full doctor of master's program at night and squeeze in soca party in between?
Because you got to have balance, honey. Work-life
Wow.
balance.
Oh,
I
okay.
have always I've always been like a huge, proponent of like work hard, play hard all
Mm.
day, every day,
Mm. Okay.
every day.
Wow, that's amazing. That is
Yeah,
amazing.
I mean, it was surreal to finish and be there, to even just think that like I went from being this little girl growing up in this island, and the biggest dream that I had my entire life was to come to America. Like that was my dream, to come to America and go to a college.
A college, I don't
And
care which college.
a college.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you end
And
up
then
in
to,
Cornell in Columbia. Wow.
which is, I didn't even understand. Honestly, I did not understand at 16 years old, because I turned 17 right before I was about to graduate.
Mm,
I was pretty young, right?
right.
I'm a child, and I, who had recently migrated to this country, I had little understanding of the gravity of, like, what I was walking into and the significance of it.
Right.
It really, really didn't. It was like, oh, I'm going to school called Cornell. Okay,
Right. So you didn't know
right?
you
Because
didn't know nothing about Ivy League school. No nothing. You just
no,
like
I mean, don't get me wrong, we did, but like, on the world scale, at least at that time, the Ivy schools that like most people know about, even like, doesn't matter if you live in some remote little, village somewhere, like, what Harvard is,
mm-hmm.
what Princeton is,
Right.
what Yale is.
Right.
You don't really hear about, Dartmouth and Brown and Cornell and UPenn, right? You don't hear about those schools as much. So I had never heard about Cornell.
Right.
I honestly didn't, until my guidance counselor handed me an application. She was like, fill this out. And I just did
Wow.
it,
You had a great guidance counselor.
which is so rare these days in, public schools.
Very
So
rare.
rare.
Very rare. Uh,
Yeah.
All right, so here you are, 30 something years old. You know, now you're a doctor with 4 degrees. You still a teacher?
No, no. At this point, yes, I hadn't quit teaching yet.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed with it.
Okay.
Um, Much to many people's chagrin, they were disappointed at my decision to stay in secondary ed and stay
Mm-hmm.
teaching at a high school level with a PhD. But I was like, but this is what I love, and this was the
Mm.
impetus for pursuing another degree. I wanted to get better at my job. I wanted to be, my best self, the
Right.
best possible educator I can be. So I stayed. I stayed at the same school, and while colleagues went off to academia and they got jobs as assistant professors, and I was like, I'm not interested in that right now.
Wow. You were just that passionate about being a teacher. And
I did. I really, really wanted to be a teacher, and at that time, and I felt personally like I was like, I'm now in my groove. I'm now starting
mm,
to feel like I got this.
right.
You
Figured
know,
out life, right?
yeah, like, I walked into, to walk into work and not feel the stress that you feel like in your first 5 years of teaching.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to describe to somebody who's not in a profession, but like I was in that space where I was like, man, like this feels so easy. I love my kids.
Right.
Like I am in charge of a department.
Okay.
I worked my way up, and things are good. I have this degree. I didn't pay for it. Life is good. You
Right.
know,
Right.
but
Well, what
things were
happened?
going well. But then what happened?
What
You
happened?
know what happened? I realized, oh, you got way too comfortable.
Mm.
And you know what they say about comfort zones? Comfort zone's a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there.
Right. So you got scared because you got too comfortable.
I realized that I needed to make an immediate change
Okay.
because I was too comfortable, and I was like, yeah, you're not going to grow anymore if you just keep doing this.
Right. Okay.
So
What did you do?
I was like, okay, well, what next? I have these 4 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
I should be able to do anything at this point. And I started looking. I was like, should I do the nonprofit world? Should I finally become a professor at a university full time? Should I find another school to go to? Like, what should I do? And long story short, time was ticking. I hadn't put my finger on what the next move would be. So I took a position that I had seen posted on Indeed, whatever, and it was at a school pretty close to my first school,
Mm-hmm.
and it was to be an AP, an assistant principal.
Mm.
And the job description was like, very similar to the responsibilities that I had as a chair of a
Mm-hmm.
department. So I was like, and it was a 1 year position. So I was like, great, it's literally the same commute. I'll just take this 1 year job, and then in that time, I'll figure out my next steps.
Right. How
And
was
then
that?
I'll have like, another administrative position on my resume.
Right. How?
And so that's what I did. I accepted a job at a second school, which happened to be an all girls high performing school in Manhattan.
Right.
And what drew me to the school was because I'm a graduate of a high performing school in
Mm-hmm.
Trinidad. So I was like, oh, this kind of feels like home,
Right. So this
going home a bit.
making this move, you got out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, which is really, really scary, Kelsey. I can't tell you how difficult that first year was. It was
Okay.
so, so hard to be somewhere where I didn't know a kid, I didn't know a teacher, I didn't know a parent. I was a stranger. There was only one other brown person in the building.
Uh
I
huh.
was in a position of authority, right? The
Right.
school was mostly white.
Right.
Oh, I ate lunch by myself every single day in my office.
Are you
It was
serious?
rough. It was rough. It was so
Dag.
rough.
Well, you stay with it. Why you stay then? And plus, it was only
I mean,
plus it was
well,
only a 1 year program. I mean.
right. It was a 1 year contract to
Mm-hmm.
be the assistant principal of the school, and then I'm not kidding you. Life has a really funny way of like just unfolding, so to speak. I was
Mm-hmm.
there, trying to figure life out, trying to find happiness every day, going into work, and in November as soon as I got there, so school starts in September, right? So November, I got pulled in by the current principal, and I got contacted by the board of trustees that said we would like you to consider becoming the principal next year.
What?
And I was on the job for 3 months, and I was like, wait, what?
Did
And
did they have that intention when they hired you, or how that
I,
came about like so quickly?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't speak to specifics, but
Uh huh.
obviously there was some stuff training behind the scenes that I walked into that I
Mm-hmm.
was unaware of.
Even though you were having a hard time that first year, all this stuff, all these things was happening.
Yeah, so I got offered the position to run the school and be the first non-religious figure running the school in its 120-year history.
Wow.
And they told me to think about it, and I went home and I remember thinking like I never wanted to be a school principal. I never wanted to do administration because it was so removed from the kids and it was just all
Mm.
about dealing with people and politics. And I'm like, I'm not that fond of people. I love
Right.
working with the
Right.
kids. So
Right.
it was never on my radar. It was never on my radar. And I remember thinking to myself, imagine like the odds of coming to a school with no intent of being there
Right.
and then having such a crazy opportunity,
Did you look
presented
at
to
it
me.
as an opportunity, or did you were like, "Oh, I'm not ready for this. Oh my God, why me?" You know?
No, 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 no. I was just like, I cannot even believe that they look at me and they think that I'm capable of doing this job, never
Mm-hmm.
having been a principal before.
Right.
And I just remember sleeping on it and praying on it and saying to myself, you know what? I have to say yes. I have to say yes. And I have to say yes for the very reason that I want to say no, which is I knew that the job entailed um, mediating a lot of difficult and challenging situations with people, like
Mm-hmm.
managing people and personalities and being like, like pushing and nudging teams along
Mm-hmm.
and creating a vision for people to kind of like, fall under and work
Right.
towards. And I knew that that was really, really difficult. And I did not have that much experience doing it. And I was like, this is exactly the reason you need to do it. You need to do this job so that you can get better at being at the helm, so to speak, and figuring out how do you inspire people,
Right.
you know,
How
because
af-
that's what true leadership is really about.
right. How afraid were you?
I was, I wasn't afraid. I was more, I was more longing for like people to talk to about the
Mm.
job that I was stepping into because I didn't have any colleagues who,
Right.
were at that level.
Right. And your
So
friends,
I
of
had my
course, wasn't any help. That was a whole different.
right. So on one hand, my colleagues were either classroom teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and the other hand, they were professors at the university level.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have a network of school leaders to be like, okay, this is what you do and blah blah blah, and like somebody to like reach out
Wow.
to and vent to, and like so I really, really was doing this alone.
Mm.
And that definitely made it much more challenging because I accepted a position. The second school year came, and just based on the structure of the school, there was no support in administrative staff. So I did not have a vice principal.
Mm.
I did not have a full-time dean. I did not have an administrative assistant. I literally
How big was the
took on the
school?
job. About 300 kids, close to 300 kids.
That's a lot of kids.
It's a small high school,
Right.
um, but it was really, really hard. It was really, really tough. But I said, you know what? I have so much writing on this. Being the first person of color, the youngest person of
Mm.
color, first person who's not a nun running the school because it was a
Right.
Catholic school. I was like, I can't screw this up because I'm going to screw this up for every brown person or every person, who's not a religious figure after me. I was like, I got to do this right. I got to get this right. So,
So, quick question. For things that you didn't know and you didn't have anyone to turn to and you didn't have an experience, how did you you know, figure things out?
you probably laugh at this response. The crazy thing is, I always tell people I never personally felt that I worked in schools where I had these larger than life administrative figures who I looked to as like, wow, like one day I wish I could be like you. I aspire to be like you as a school leader.
Mm-hmm.
My experience actually kind of put me into close proximity to people who were not great, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had elements that were just indicative of poor leadership,
Mm-hmm.
and I basically utilized that as my my toolkit.
Right.
I had awesome experience in what not to do running a school. So that's what I did.
So you did a
I was
total
like,
opposite
I
of what they would have
remember,
done.
yeah, I just no, but I remember like from my days as a teacher and whatnot, I would be like, man, if I was a principal, I would never do that.
Mm-hmm.
And those things stuck with me. And
Mm.
those things are actually what drove me and helped me. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, one of the biggest assets to helping me do the job well was because I was a classroom teacher. Because it was
Mm.
easy for me to situate myself in the shoes of a teacher and know what
Right.
a teacher needs, what they would be pissed at, what they would embrace and welcome, right? What they would be receptive to, what they really need for their kids,
Mm-hmm.
what they need, right? So because I was a teacher and I was in the classroom for so long, it actually helped me a lot more than I
Mm.
thought it would have
Right.
stepping into the shoes of a school leader. So
Right. But you
yeah,
said you had different parties you had to deal with, right? Besides teachers, right?
of course.
Like parents,
Yeah,
board members, and all that good stuff. How is that?
absolutely. You got vendors, you have alumni. I had the archdiocese, um, just so many stakeholder groups, staff members, um, and people who invest in the school. There's just a lot of different people who are tugging on you and saying things in the ear, and you have to make decisions for the greater good of the school
Right.
based on everyone's interests and everyone's desires, which is really, really hard because when you have those situations, somebody's not going to be happy.
Right. Right.
Somebody's never happy.
So you had to make tough decisions.
Every single day, probably every half an hour, every day.
So did you end up getting a vice principal and a dean eventually, or it was just you?
No, it
What?
was just me. It was just me. It was just me, and I was pretty spent. I
Mm.
loved school. I loved my job. Loved the kids, but
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty spent. So after 4 years, I just abruptly decided that this is going to be my last year. I was like, because that would have made, so this is 2018.
Mm-hmm.
2018 made 17, 18 years in the profession.
Mm. And you were
And
like,
I was like,
you sound like
yeah,
you were burnt out.
yeah, I was getting burnt out for sure, for sure. And I just remember thinking, I refuse to be that school principal who everybody hates, who everybody turns the other direction when she's coming down the hallway, who
Right.
the kids don't want to talk to, who's
Right.
considered mean and unapproachable
Right.
and disconnected. I was like, that's not gonna be me. And
Mm.
I thought and thought about it and for a long time, and I was like, you are talking about making another crazy decision in
Mm-hmm.
your life. But
Right.
walking away from my first job, and after like I released the fear and I just moved on and moved forward through it. Then I just became like, oh well, if I'm not happy here. I think it's time to go. I think it's next. I'm getting burnt out. I don't want to do that. I don't want to become this like miserable person. So
Mm-hmm.
I should make a graceful exit, and that's what I did. I
Right.
announced my resignation. Everyone was floored. People
Mm-hmm.
cried. People were upset. People didn't understand why. But I told myself, I was like, you've dedicated almost 20 years of your life to serving others,
Mm.
to serving the children of others, and it's okay to say that I'm taking a temporary break to kind of like take care of myself,
Right. But
right?
you were burnt out. You were tired. But you
Yeah,
weren't comfortable in this because the first time you transitioned is because you felt too comfortable. In this situation, you were like, I'm burnt out. I'm tired. Am I right?
yeah,
Or
but it was, yeah, no, that's right, and it was really about recognizing, like, look, it's okay to say like I need to take care of myself right now, right?
mm-hmm.
Like it's okay, everything's going to be fine, and that's literally what I did.
Mm.
Even though I, at the time that I made the decision, it was really more like, man, I need a break, man, I need a break. But there was, as I remember sharing with you before, there was no like super long term planning that happened.
Just
I
did
just
it.
said, yeah, I just did it, and I was like, I'll figure out next steps.
So you didn't have a
I'll
job. Uh,
No, I didn't leave for a job. I didn't, I had money saved, but there was no opportunity that I was moving on to, or I was not interviewing. I was not doing any research about anything. I just
mm-hmm.
said, Nicole needs a sabbatical. Nicole needs a little break. I've earned it. I deserve it. And after my last official day, I probably hit 5 countries that summer,
Mm-hmm.
2018.
Five
And
countries. What
then,
countries did you visit?
well, I went to Zambia,
Mm-hmm.
and then I jumped down to South Africa. And then when I came back to the U.S., then shortly after I left, I went to Colombia.
Wow.
I went to Cartagena, and then I went to Jamaica um, to party. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I had to get some of that in the system.
Right. Right.
And yeah, I'm trying to think of where else I went. Oh, I went to 4 countries, and then I went on a fifth trip. Though I went to Montgomery, Alabama. I'd never been down south in that
Alabama.
area.
What brought you
Yeah,
to
because
Alabama?
so at that time, Brian Stevenson, who is like hot topic in the news right now because of his book turned movie Just Mercy. Um,
Mm.
so his so the Equal Justice Initiative that he founded,
Mm-hmm.
um, basically had done years of research and compiled all the names of that they could find of blacks who were lynched in the United States.
Oh wow.
And that information was converted into a museum.
Oh wow.
So that's the what they call the lynching museum
Uh,
in Montgomery.
oh wow. So you went to visit the
So
Lynching Museum.
I was like, when the news came out, I was like, I have to see this. I have to go. I have to visit. So I met a girlfriend. We drove to Montgomery. We did the
From New
museum. There were
York?
2 museums. No, well, no, I flew down to Atlanta. We drove from Atlanta,
Oh,
and
okay.
then we drove to Selma. We walked over the bridge. You know,
Wow.
we had a little Black Girl Magic history tour,
Right.
and that was amazing. That was really, really amazing because a lot of times, when we think about travel and we think about original experiences, we do tend to think a lot more about traveling internationally. But
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a huge fan of domestic travel and like seeing this country, um, you know, in its
Wow.
entirety. So that was the fifth trip that I snuck in there. And then I
Wow.
came back to New York and I was like, okay, what are we going to do now?
How was your money situation after 5 trips?
I was still good. I was still good.
Okay.
I was I was still hanging in there.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then probably maybe 2 3 months after that, then I was like, okay, time to work now. What are we gonna do? and and then
Wow.
the following, so So when January came, 2019 is when I started teaching at the university level again and started officially doing consulting again.
Okay.
So I kind of took the second half of 2018 off and literally just traveled and, like I said, spent time with friends and, worked on
Right.
my apartment.
So how
I'm
did
really into
you
home decor.
enjoy your emancipation? That period where you're like from burnt out to where you end up being where you become a professor again. How was that experience? Was it liberating? Was it free? Do you have any worries? Were you just enjoying it?
I was, like at first I went through stages, like how you go through stages of like grief, they say, I went through stages and mine, encompassed like being in a tremendous shock.
That you
Like,
did.
what
You
did you
just did
do?
something crazy.
Right. Like, what did you do? Then I went through a period where I felt I was grieving, right? Like, I'm going to miss my children and I'm going to miss, you know what I'm saying? Like, being in the school and so on and so forth. And then I went to a space where I was just like, I was confused and I felt like I was a little disoriented. And the crazy thing is, I also went through a phase where I was angry and I wish that things had been different,
Angry? Why are you
so that
angry?
I think angry at the circumstances in life and wishing that things had been different so I would have not been burnt out and been able to stay in this job longer. And then you know what? Life really showed me that sometimes, not getting what you want can be a wonderful stroke of luck. Because I was able to realize, so like September came, the new school year came in the fall of 2018, and I just remember sitting at home in my apartment, and I was just looking around like, like, twiddle thumbs. And I remember thinking and realizing for the very first time in my entire adult life that I was experiencing what it felt like to not be under stress.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I went through days and I was like, what is going on? I couldn't put it into words. And then I realized that that's what it was. I was not operating under any anxiety. There was no stress about
Wow.
the train schedule, the MTA running late and getting to school late. There was no stress about this is happening and that's happening. I have this deadline. I have to take care of this report. This kid needs this. This teacher needs this. I had no stressful deadlines, no stressful decision making in my life
Was that
anymore.
like
And
euphoric? Was like a euphoric feeling? It was like it's just a calm feeling. What kind of no stress? How does that feel? Like not being stressed.
listen, like I said, I was in a daze because I did not at first realize that that's what I was experiencing. And then once I realized that that's what it was, I was just like, oh my God, this,
Wow.
we're all so caught up in this rat race of like 9 to 5 work, right? And feeling like we're not making meaning of our life, or we're not being impactful unless we're, in this like rat race of a 9 to 5 job, and working long hours and grinding, right? No sleep and hustle to, whatever, all that stuff.
Like
The
we're
hustle
programmed
mindset.
to like do slave labor, stress, you know.
Yeah.
And
And
if
we
you
celebrate it. And
right
we celebrate it. Like if you're not doing that, if you don't
something
ascribe
wrong,
to that life, something's wrong with you.
right?
And the truth is, that's trash. That's complete garbage, because you absolutely have to have balance. And you absolutely have to take care of yourself.
Right.
Because if you can't be your best self, you can't be your best self for no one else or nothing else that you do in your life, period. So going through that experience of just realizing like, wow, I am absolutely like, I feel calm and I have a different kind of clarity, right? And I started thinking, I actually remember joking to my father. I was like, Dad, none of my friends really know me. I was like, and he's like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, because my entire life I've been stressed and probably mean.
Wow.
And now I'm like not stressed. And now I'm like normal Nicole again,
So you became a
whatever that
totally
means.
different person.
Right. That's what I started feeling like. I started feeling like I was a totally different person, not operating under stress. And having that clarity in the space, allowed me to start thinking about, okay, I've spent almost 2 decades of my life trying to make a difference in urban education. What do I want to do next? How do I want to continue to inspire others? How do I want to continue to be impactful? What talents and gifts do I have, right, that I can continue to do so, but maybe in a different space, maybe in a different arena.
Right.
And I just said to myself, there's so many things that I love. So this is my shot. This is my opportunity to just try a bunch of different things and see what sticks. And yeah, when we talked last year, I think like this was kind of like the nature of our conversation, right? When we had just, we were just touching base, and I was like, I'm doing this, I'm trying this, and you're like, you were telling me like, nah, you're gonna have to pick one, Nick. And I was like, yeah, we'll see. But I was like, I'm gonna wait to see what sticks and what feels right and what feels good. And yeah, a year later, I could say that something definitely stuck. And so last year, I started an LLC called the Carabiz Network, CBN, and basically it's an educational collaborative platform for small Caribbean businesses, brands, freelancers, and basically I promote Caribbean brands. I connect brands with each other. I connect brands to new markets. I work in the capacity of like forging partnerships with other agencies just to promote Caribbean entrepreneurship.
Right.
And
by the way, this has nothing to do with your degrees, though.
No, not at all. I know, right?
Like really, like how that came about? What inspired you to go in that direction?
I think it's funny, I haven't asked that in a while, but I feel like with all the free time that I got when I was home after, last year, no, not last year, the fall of 2018, I was on social media more, so I'm like posting more, I'm seeing what people are doing more. And one of the things that I've always been really, really passionate about is like, promoting what my peoples are doing, so whether they're having an event or they have a product or service, whatever, like I was just always sharing that sort of stuff. And in my time of introspection and just thinking about, well, what makes you happy? What do you love doing? And I was like, I love everything Caribbean. I love promoting every single thing that's Caribbean, that's positive, that's intellectual, right? Because we have the whole entertainment scene unlocked, right? Like there are people with whole PhDs in throwing fets,
right,
and us having a good time,
right.
But I've always been like just a huge cheerleader of, again, anything related to the islands, our culture, celebrating our contributions to American culture, and it just kind of grew into like, I said, oh, you know what? Let me just make a Instagram page, and I'll just post, peoples that I know and the cool things that they're doing, and it's just gonna be for Caribbean folks. And it just started off as a hobby. I would just kind of like randomly post here or there. It would be like clothing brands that I love that I've bought from the Caribbean, or just friends of friends doing cool things, and it just kind of grew. And it just started growing. People started hitting me up like, hey, I'm looking for a brand that, Caribbean-owned brand that does XYZ. Do you know anyone?
Oh,
so
wow.
I started getting a lot of those kind of requests in DMs, a lot of those requests. And that kind of led me to thinking like, wow, this has real potential here in this market. And, I sat down and tried to focus, and I came up with some ideas, and I kind of just launched a brand.
When did you officially launch?
February 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had a brunch launch with a panel of 5 Caribbean American entrepreneurs at different stages of the game. So 1 year to 10 years. And it was just like an intimate conversation with like 65 people. Just
wow,
talking about their journey.
That's a good number. From an Instagram page to 65 people.
I know it because I'm working on something else, and like, all my numbers, all my metrics are at my fingertips right now. But yeah, I do remember it too because it was sold out.
Wow.
It was sold out. The restaurant was sold to capacity, was shut down for the event, and it was such a great start. Like, I said, let me just do this and see what happens. And there was just so much positive feedback and follow up from the event. And like
Mm-hmm.
literally the network started expanding and the database started growing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and did have a couple of really wonderful partnerships last year with other brands, other agencies. And that led to the last event I did in the end of the end of November.
Mm-hmm.
So I partnered with the governor's office in the state of New York and Empire State Development, the division of minority women-owned businesses, and
Mm-hmm.
I had a boot camp for small business owners. So we had about 75 plus business owners, small business owners who came to do like a full day boot camp just to learn how to get to acquire government contracts with
Uh-huh.
the state of New York and how to become a certified minority-owned business or women-owned business.
Wow.
I had it fully sponsored by all Caribbean restaurants. We had, again, representatives from 5 agencies like Bedside Restoration Corp., the New York Small Business Association. It was wonderful. It
How
was
did you
really,
figure
really
how
great.
to grow so quickly? This is nothing you went to school for. How did you kind of put it all together? Just grit, grind, and
Honestly, just good fortune and like just knowing people, just a network, you know, having
mm-hmm.
a network that connected me to more people who are interested in things. And it was actually really surprising to see how easy so much of this was able to happen because there was like great interest in doing stuff for, you know, and having a Caribbean community on a platform,
Mm.
you know, and being able to tap into like, you know, state and local agencies, being able to tap into specifically Caribbean market.
All right.
Everybody was just really excited and was like, yeah, sign us up. And I was like, wow, it was that easy? One phone call?
Wow.
Yeah. So things started growing, you know, rapidly. Like the minute I had an idea and I would just follow through on it, it just magic started happening. You
Wow.
know, so this event launched, well, happened in November. I launched the platform's first line of merchandise for business owners.
Mm.
There's really cool merchandise that's online that can be bought, hoodies and T-shirts and so on and so forth. And just more exciting stuff is happening right now because right now the Big Kahuna is June 2020. So Caribi's Con, the first Caribbean American summit for Caribbean American entrepreneurs and
This
business
is
owners.
your event?
Yeah, this is
You came
what
up
I'm
with a
working on
name,
currently.
all that stuff, trademark that joint?
Yes, it is actually. So, I'm really really excited. I'm working on right now. There's about 15 to 20 panels at work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm slated to be part of the event. There's going to be a marketplace with vendors for Caribbean vendors.
Mm-hmm.
There's a keynote. There's going to be cultural activities, music. So it's literally the intention is to be like this crazy celebration of Caribbean culture and Caribbean contributions to American culture, but mainly in the form of enterprise. And
Right.
I'm so excited about it right now.
Are you doing this full time?
If I'm doing this full time,
Yeah.
well, yeah, alongside consulting, yeah.
Wow. So what's the ultimate vision you have for yourself now that you're an entrepreneur? You have nothing to do with education. You have all these degrees that you're not using. What's your ultimate vision in terms of where you want to take this, where you want to be? You know, seem
You
like
know what? I this idea, this all kind of like, you know, spawned from this very simple idea of like I just want to help my people be put on.
mm,
And honestly, that's the vision is still connected very much to that. So it's like,
mm-hmm,
you know, I've amassed a wonderful network of people and I need to put that to use. So
mm-hmm,
the goal and the vision for CBN is to again just create enormous access and opportunities to small business owners and people who are trying to work their way up. And in
mm-hmm.
whatever way that CBN can contribute to that, that's what I would like to have happen, you know,
Right.
with the LLC. So I'm really excited about it. I have there's a lot of plans for other things aside from the summit that I'm working on for June. And again, I should say the target June is because June is very significant because
Mm-hmm.
in 2006 it was declared as a National Caribbean American Heritage Month.
Okay.
So it is a federally recognized month to celebrate Caribbean culture in
Oh,
America.
nice. Nice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you,
a lot of people don't know that, but yeah.
well, it seemed like you are where you're supposed to be, something that you love, they're passionate about. If you had to do everything all over again, would you do anything different in terms of getting your degrees, going to teaching, doing all this thing that led you to where you are now? Would you do anything different knowing what you know now?
You know what? No. I feel like the growth that's happened with me personally couldn't have happened if I was my usual typical trying to overplan Capricorn self, having
Mm,
plan A through Z ready to go. I
right.
literally did the thing where I took that first step but I didn't even see the whole staircase.
Mm,
I just said I'm just gonna take the step.
wow.
That's
You didn't see this. You
that's
didn't see the
hope.
next step in front of you. You just took that
No,
first
I
step.
just said I'm going. This is where I'm going. And it's also so awesome because I'm in this space now where I'm forced to be so creative, right?
Right.
Creative and innovative in a very different way. And like one of my favorite Einstein quotes is goes like creativity is like intelligence having fun. And I
Wow.
feel like
That's
I'm
dope.
having so much fun in my life now because I get to be ultimately creative in so many different and new and unique ways. And because of that, I'm getting to like really take my dreams seriously and and act on them
Right.
with intention and purpose. And at the end of the day, like every single thing I'm doing it because I hope to and want to make a difference
Right.
for Caribbean Americans.
Right. So is there still stress? Are you still stress free?
I don't feel honestly there's no stress related to the kind of work that I'm doing right now. I
Mm.
mean, I'm sure as June approaches and deadlines
Right. Right.
start moving, I'm going to start to feel a different kind of stress because we all fully know the stress that comes with event planning. It's on a whole nother level. But day
Mm-hmm.
to day, no. Day to day, absolutely not. I do not feel and walk around with the kind of stress that I used to. And it's
Right.
it's just such the
How
liberation it's indescribable.
right. How did your friends adjust to the new Nicole?
The great thing is I have my friendships have really, really blossomed with so many people because I
Mm.
get to spend more time with them.
Mm.
So like I have a really close girlfriend that lives in Atlanta. Two, I've gotten to see them so many times because I've gone down to Atlanta like 5 or 6 times in the last
Wow.
year. I have another really good friend that lives in Raleigh, and I had never been able to make it down to Raleigh. I was just down there with her for a week,
Wow.
because I could work, do what I need to do just from my computer at home. So it's really, really helped me be able to kind of like dedicate time to people in my life that are really, really important to me. And of course, as you probably know from your own journeys, like when you open and you share, you'll be
Mm-hmm.
so surprised at the things that come your way when you open up and you kind of like share your intentions or something that you're working on, and it's somebody's like, oh, I know someone who does blah 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 blah
Right.
blah,
Right. Right.
and it's literally just having dialogue that
Right.
just opens new doors for you.
Right. Listen,
So
you're like amazing example of why I'm doing this podcast. When people really step out and just follow their passion, no matter how scary it may sound or seems, or you may not know where you're going, but you know you need to do something. You're a great example of what comes when you do that. So really thank you for sharing this journey, Nick.
no, thank you so much. And honestly, as you know too, from our previous conversation, like it's taking that leap. It's depending on how you plan for it, right? It could be smooth or it could be bumpy. It could be
Mm-hmm.
a roller coaster ride, depending on how you plan.
Right.
And knowing,
But you
knowing
didn't
what
plan.
life is. I didn't plan. I did a lot of praying though.
Right?
After a while, I started doing a lot of praying, and
Wow.
do you know what? The thing that surprised me the most, in some ways, it's like when your back is against the wall, you become so creative,
Right.
and the hunger, right? The hunger grows, and it's so intense and so strong. When you're like, I have to figure this out. This
Right.
has to work, right?
Right.
This has to work. I have bills to pay. I need to take care of this or take care of that. So you really push yourself in new ways
Right.
when you're not in your comfort zone and you need to get things accomplished.
Right.
So I'm grateful for the lessons that I've learned, from
Right.
being in those spaces at multiple points in 2019 as I, was trying to figure life out
Mm-hmm.
and trying to figure out, like, what is Nicole doing? How is Nicole going to, again, be impactful in her space? Because I have a responsibility, right? I have enormous responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I was this little island girl who, like, defied all odds of, like, going to university and having the educational experiences I've had, and having had the professional experiences I've had. I owe people. I owe my community. I owe
Mm.
Brooklyn. I
Right.
owe the US, for affording me these opportunities in that way. So I have to pass it on.
You're right.
That I don't have a choice. It
Right.
has to be passed on. Like, all the lessons that I've learned, the mistakes that I've made. So I'm so hungry and eager to do that in any capacity. I still have tremendous love for education, of course. I'm still doing consulting. I still work with teachers. I still am in the classroom with kids. That still nourishes me and brings me so much joy. But
Mm-hmm.
now I get to integrate into my life another huge joy, which is, how I can help small businesses grow, and from not even ever being an entrepreneur myself. So it's like I became an entrepreneur trying to help entrepreneurs, which is wild and crazy, isn't it?
Wow, it is wild and great, but it's so dope though. It's so such an amazing journey. Any advice that you would give anyone who was in your shoes, who were burnt out, not happy in terms of where they are? Uh, you know, how do they escape? How do they emancipate themselves? Any advice that you would give anybody who's in that situation that you were in?
Yeah, I would say, if you don't like something, change it.
Mm,
You got to change it,
that's simple,
right?
right?
And if you can't change it right away, then change your attitude until you can change it. So if
Mm,
you're in a situation and you're stuck and you want to get out, that you got to ride out the 6 months or whatever, then you've got to do the best you can to change your attitude and embrace that experience for what it is, and say, you know what, I'm getting out of here, but I'm going to use this last 6 months, this last year, to learn as much as I possibly can, to
mm-hmm.
absorb every inkling of information and knowledge and expertise that could possibly help me once I walk out that door. So
Mm-hmm.
you got to change your attitude and recognize, while you may not be happy in a position where you are right now, there are things that you can learn that are going to be really, really helpful. So, so you can fatten your toolkit when you walk out the door.
Oh,
And then plan, make plans, save money,
right,
make sure you're investing,
right,
right? As long as you can, have that company, contribute to your pension.
right, right.
But have a plan and be ready to go. And
Okay.
trust yourself. Trust that you are able and you have the capacity to make smart decisions that will take you further and will
Right,
move you forward. You have to trust yourself
right. Yeah, because a lot of people they doubt their abilities. Did that ever happen to you? Doubt yourself at all?
all the time. It
How do you?
happened a lot.
Uh huh.
It happened a lot, and it happened in connection to just me thinking about my age in life, and what I'd hoped to have done at this point. We all do that,
Right,
and I said to myself, it's like, man, cut yourself some slack, right? Like, your
right.
journey is your journey. Let's not do the comparison thing and compare yourself to what other people are doing, where they are. You think about where you started as this little immigrant girl coming to this country at 15 years old. You're
Mm-hmm.
doing okay. You're
Right.
doing okay, and it's only going to get better. It's only going to get better. Like, you're just now in, like, almost like a phase two of your life professionally. So
That's exactly how I look at where I'm at as well. This is like the second half, of
yeah,
my journey.
and just, you can't. I would say to anyone, don't delay it. Just
Mm,
go for it. Don't delay it.
right.
Because I hate to just kind of like add a somber twist to things, but like, tomorrow is not promised.
Right.
Tomorrow is really, really not promised. We're chatting it up here, 2 days after some of the most devastating news that we've all been hit with regarding the passing of Kobe.
That we didn't see coming.
And I mean, it's so hard not to think about it for two reasons. For one, just to the point that I just made about, Kobe. Yeah, so many people hold him up in this regard as a legend in, as a professional athlete, but like he was literally in the phase 2 of his life, being a legend in that capacity, right? As a filmmaker, as a coach, right? And as a creative, because he was connected to all these really huge creative projects that we didn't necessarily know about. He was fully immersed in philanthropy, and he was just doing so much. And I'm so, as heartbreaking as it is, it's like at least he got some time to really go out there and step out of the step out of the court and try to have happiness in a different way that he wanted, versus never being able to live that life, have that life that he
seemed like he seemed like he was having the best time of his life, being around his kids, being around his daughter. It's such a tragic thing. That's why we need to do what we need to do now. Like tomorrow, like you said, tomorrow is not promised. So, tomorrow never comes. So do it now. So on that note, I'm going to wrap up this conversation. You dropped so many freaking gems. Appreciate you sharing your journey. How can my listeners find you in your endeavors on social media and so forth? Website, Instagram, whatever, wherever we can find you. How can they find you?
Sure. You can hit me up on Instagram. I have a couple. My professional Instagram is at Dr. Nick Grimes, so DrNikGrimes. And my company's Instagram is Caribiz Network, so CARIBBIZ Network.
Okay.
So that's where you'll find you can hit me up and you see what's going on regarding education or regarding the business, and all of my links are on those platforms as well. To LinkedIn and everything, my bio and everything else. So so come holler at me, hit me up. Happy to give advice. I'm happy to network more people. If you think I could be of help to you, anyone who's listening.
Well, like I said, your journey, your story is amazing. And I know it's going to inspire so many people. So thanks for sharing, Nicole. Happy New Year. And I look forward to see what you do in the near and far future.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. I really appreciate the invitation and just this platform and the stories that you're bringing to light for us to all draw inspiration from. Definitely. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Have a good one. Thank you all for tuning into Reverse Ambition Podcast. It is really a pleasure sharing these amazing journeys with you. It may take some time for you to find your purpose and realize your dreams, or for your purpose and dreams to find you. When it happens, don't be afraid to pursue them. Be more afraid if you don't. Trust God, trust your journey, and most important, trust yourself, and it will all work out. Until next time, I am Kelsey Cooper, the Social Broker. Thanks again for listening.